Assalamu alaikum, guys. Welcome back. We missed you all so much.
Welcome back, guys. This is our third episode.
Which is crazy. Like, I can't believe we've gotten...
It's been going good so far.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. Just before we did begin with the episode, we'd just like to announce that this podcast is now on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, so it's way more accessible for you to listen to than you just listening to it on YouTube. And with that being said, share it, guys. Please do your best to spread the word.
Today's episode is advice to our younger selves. Dear young me. Honestly, this episode, the inspiration of it was really just past regrets, and especially with Ramadan, I feel like I use so much of my time to just reflect and almost reminisce, right? And I just kind of want to I thought about it and I was like, what would I change if I could do something different?
If you could do it again.
Exactly.
Yeah. We didn't talk about this before we started brainstorming for this idea, but there is no kind of age that we gouged. This is just our younger selves, period. Like, we could be talking to 5-year-old us or 14-year-old us. Because,
or even me 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, literally me a year ago. Like, there are regrets, obviously. Not regrets. I wouldn't say regrets, but things that we would do differently.
Or
just
things
with experience.
Things I just wish that someone had told me.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
You know? One thing that I wish that someone had definitely told me was learn hijab, right? Like, I am a hijabi, obviously, right? Like, it's such a big part of my identity now, right? But I started wearing it when I was in grade 6, right? So I was, 12 maybe, right? And it was just kind of like, I got my period and I was like, okay, like, now I know that I need to start wearing hijab, right? But that was it. It was just like, I knew I had to do it, so I put it on. Right, and I didn't even know the true value of it or what it was, right? Because hijab encompasses so many things. It's morals, the way you carry yourself, the clothes you wear, right? The way you represent it is such a big thing, and I feel like I really didn't know that, right? And again, things do come with experience, right? Like, you kind of learn as you go, but I really didn't feel like that, right? Like, now I feel without my hijab, I feel naked, literally.
Incomplete.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's such a big part of who I am. But I literally remember I wore it from grade 6 to 8, right? And it was Islamic school, right? But that's going to be a whole other topic, guys. Don't
other
worry.
episode.
Right? And I felt like everyone around me wore it. But then when I was going to high school, I was like, do I really want to go into high school with my hijab? I don't want to, I don't want it to hold me back, right? I remember thinking that, and I just wish someone had been I'd learned the value of it so much earlier.
But I don't want you to beat yourself up for it, because at that age, I don't think anybody's priority, which is sad, but at such a young age, grade 6, nobody's priority is let me learn the meanings behind the hijab so that it's more important for me. I think us just putting it on in this Western society was already our step. It was hard enough putting it on, let alone going to public school with it, and let alone understanding the meaning and really resonating with it. It was hard for us to come to terms with the discipline behind it. But with, like you said, with experience, we learned why it's important for us to wear the hijab and how many things it's protected us from and how it represents us. So it's not, I feel like you shouldn't take it as just a regret.
I know, yeah.
It's definitely a learning opportunity. But yeah, if we could go back and just talk to our younger selves and be like, this is not just a piece of cloth you're wrapping around your head. Number one, you are going to be seen differently by every single person you meet.
That's so true.
Muslim or not Muslim, because Muslims are going to have a certain judgment on who you are wearing the hijab, the way you wear your hijab, the colors you wear, the style, the material, all of that. And non-Muslims are going to see you as, a practicing Muslim, a conservative Muslim, whatever it is. So I think that yeah.
Especially, I feel like the thing was that I was wearing hijab, and obviously when someone sees a hijabi, right, they know that you're a practicing Muslim. And there was certain times where my language or who I was around or what I was wearing wasn't necessarily
aligning.
Yeah, it wasn't aligning, and it wasn't representing Islam how I wanted to portray it, right? So for me, it's kind of what if someone that was a representation someone had seen and they got a bad reputation of it, right? And like, yeah, of course I can't beat myself up over it because it's in the past now, right? But I wish that someone, especially being in Islamic school, I really wish that someone had just been like, you know, hijab is so much more than a piece of cloth, right? And someone had just genuinely, like, the real meaning of it. I wish someone had just taught me that. Because
also your actions reflect your external, you know, presence. Like, you wearing the hijab and then going around and, like, let's say you're vaping or you're hanging out with boys or you're swearing. Obviously, no hijabi is perfect, but it also represents the hijab in an immoral way, because that's not what the hijab stands for. If you're going to wear it, you should respect it. You should respect the teachings behind wearing it in the first place. So that makes sense for you to say, like, I wish I talked to my younger self, being like, this is the importance of you wearing it. This is why we wear it as Muslims, and so on.
And I think, like, now I'm 18, right? And I've, like, grasped what it means. I've learned how to, like, act accordingly. I've learned how to just kind of calibrate myself around my hijab, right? But at the same time, I think that if I had been able to do this when I was younger, it would have brought me so much closer to my deen so much earlier, right? Which I really would have benefited from, right? Like, alhamdulillah, like, now I'm close to my deen, but I wish that I had gained that knowledge and that strength earlier.
You would have been ahead. But it's better than nothing.
It's better than never. It's better than never achieving it. Yeah.
So what do you think you learned about your hijab, like, positively? Like, what has the hijab impacted you positively on?
I think it's really made me, of course with the hijab you can express yourself, right? But I've found out how to express myself through, like, what I say and what I do, and just kind of show my character, right? Because it makes you brush up on your character so much more, especially, like, during COVID and stuff. The more you learn about it, right, you're like, oh, like, people do see hijabis in a negative way, right? And then you're like, okay, but I can't let them see us
prove them wrong.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like this, I need to prove them wrong, right? So you're just so much nicer to everyone you see. And I think that thing, even though the right thing didn't push me to it, I think I got the right result.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good outcome of
exactly,
it being put on. I feel like also the hijab teaches us during those critical that critical age, like being in your, like, prepubescent to, like, puberty,
you're full of hormones, like,
disgusting.
You can literally smell them oozing out of you.
Ew. But yeah, like, at that age, I feel like we were all really insecure already. Like, I don't know what was in the air, but everybody in their, like, early teen age was insecure with themselves in every single way. And then putting on the hijab on top of that, like, covering what society would deem beautiful, it makes it harder. But then also you see how certain people respect it, like, respect the way that you wear the hijab in such a hard, like, environment to be wearing the hijab, and that makes you motivated to wear it more. When people are like, wow, you're hijabi at a young age, and, like, you stick by it, and all your friends are non-hijabis, all your friends are non-Muslim, like, you're sticking by the hijab, it also gives you a certain status of respect, I feel.
You know, one thing that really helped me with wearing hijab was honestly our friendship. I'm gonna be so honest. Like, oh my goodness, this is gonna make me cringe so hard. But when we were in, like, grade 7 and 8, and we'd wear our patterned hijabs with our, like, $6 Ardeen patterned leggings with another patterned tunic dress, or we'd wear, like, jeans and a dress.
Yeah, cardigans and tunics,
and, like, a jean jacket on top with our glasses and our crooked teeth. Oh,
we were so.
I knew. Me and you, we were the baddest on the block.
Exactly.
I don't care.
We were the bad in the neighborhood. Ask about us.
As long as I had you by my side, I didn't care what anybody thought of my hijab.
And I feel like that's why I'm so obviously grateful for our friendship, because I know a lot of hijabis that struggled putting it on. Like, I know some of my friends don't even have, like, hijabi moms or hijabi siblings. Like, that is a way harder environment to put the hijab on, because you're the only person, even surrounded by Muslims, you're the only one. But alhamdulillah, we had our friendship to, like, we could relate on the fact that, you know, hijab was hard wearing at that age, especially us going into, like, grade 9, grade 10, it was hard wearing the hijab, but we had each other to basically we're like two people. We're like one person but two people.
That's literally what it is.
It's so we're experiencing the same thing. We look the same, whatever. I feel like one of my greatest advice that I would give my younger self is that discipline is not always harmful, and that there's actually, a sense of like safety that goes into the principle of discipline. At a young age, like I felt like rules were meant to constrict me, even with things like hijab. Like I didn't understand it at that point as well as I do now, but I was just like, I don't understand why I have to cover my beauty. Like I will do it, but why? Right? Like why can't I just look like everybody else? Or like things like me and Khadija did not even have electronics till like the 8th grade, and I remember severely begging my parents for like an iPod, like an iPod Touch, like the little colored ones. Like we begged our parents for that. Even socials, like we did not have social media. I did not even have social media until like grade 11. And obviously at that point when I was looking at it, I was like, oh my god, there's so many rules, like ugh. But now looking back, like discipline had so much wisdom to it. My parents like genuinely thought out that rule, because I would not want my kids in the future, inshallah, to have social media or to have access to a phone at that age, because me and Khadija have made so many memories because of our lack of entertainment. Like we were not allowed to sit all day and watch movies and be on our phones, so we were out in the park every day. During Ramadan, we were outside in the sun all day.
I remember it would be like, I'd get to your house and be like, I have to get home right before iftar. I have to go and help my mom. And I'd like run home, go help my mom, eat iftar, and then right after I'd be back at your house.
We'd be like genuinely, I'm not even kidding, we'd spend 13-14 hours easily with each other. We were outside like in the sun. We'd come back with crazy tans, but it's because we had no other way of entertaining ourselves, so we created great memories from it. And we would not be able to make those memories if we had iPods that we were just sitting on all day together. Like obviously we do, and we also skipped this cringy phase. Like we do not have that many photos where we're like, oh my god, we look crazy, because we kind of just forgot about how we used to dress back then. But imagine, like our little sisters now, they do have electronics and whatever, they're taking photos all the time. Imagine them 10 years down the line looking back like, oh my god, why did I wear that? Thank god it's like out of sight, out of mind.
Inshallah, I live to see that moment where she recognizes everything I told her. And I feel like discipline also, like, even like the way our parents discipline us, but even beyond that, right? Like even Islamic discipline, right? It's like, oh, like avoid haram relationships, like, even like the small things, right? You're like, oh my goodness, like why is it so bad to have friends who are guys? Like why can't I laugh with them? Why can't I hang out with them? They're friends,
even with laughing, right? Even with laughing,
dude. Like all of those things. And then as you get older, you're like, now I get it, right? Like everything in Islam has a reason.
Everything has a reason. Even like me and Khadija both went to Islamic school, so there were things that they were like super strict on. Like even wearing makeup to school, we were not allowed to wear makeup, and I would not want my kid in the future to wear makeup to school. Why? Because at that age, you should be used to your natural beauty. You should not be caking your face up to the point where you don't even recognize yourself, to the point where you have insecurities about yourself. Like there's so many things that come with Islam that's like you should not do, because it harms you for your future self. Like everything that we grew up constraint, I don't even think we had too strict of parents. Like it wasn't that we were not allowed to do anything. I think it was
reasonable. I think we just struggled to understand the reasoning.
We struggled, and also it was just like, obviously our parents are first generation, so to them it's just like, well, just don't do it. But to us it's like, why? Right? Like, why can't I have a boyfriend? Why can't I, post on social media? Why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? And then now looking back, I'm like, alhamdulillah that it went that way, and that we got all the opportunities we got to make memories together still.
My next piece of advice for my younger self would be to get comfortable. I cannot even explain the amount of time I've spent just feeling like uncomfortable in so many different ways, whether that be like in my body, in my hijab, with my deen, right? And like just social situations. Like, I felt like I always stuck out, right? Like, being taller, being a hijabi, you know, all these different things. I just felt like I spent so long being uncomfortable that I missed out on things, you know? Like, going out to, like, the beach or something, right? With my parents and stuff. And I'd just be like, oh, like, I don't want to get in the water in my burkini.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it was just like, why did I do that when I could have just been out there enjoying the sun, enjoying the water?
Because it
right?
doesn't matter, really.
Like,
nobody's,
how am I going to see these? When am I going to see these people again? Right? I'm never going to see them
Canada.
again.
Everybody's in bikinis.
Exactly. Every other person is wearing one.
Exactly.
But then, like, I just spent so long being uncomfortable, right? And then again, it ties back to my hijab, right? Like, I spent so long being uncomfortable with my hijab, right?
Yeah.
And in my deen too, it's just like, well, like, no one else is thinking about this on the daily, right? Why should I have to think about it? Why should, like, people, like, see me as, like, so religious and stuff, right?
Yeah.
I spent so long doing that, and it genuinely held me back, right? These are just things that I wish that I'd learned, because you're gonna always be uncomfortable in life, right? You're never gonna be in a situation where you're always comfortable, and if you are, you're not growing.
And you're also not meant to fit in every situation.
Exactly.
Like us, obviously, I'm just gonna use hijab in school setting. Like, we went to a school where obviously there's Muslims, but people's perception of Islam was like, oh, she's a hijabi means she's super religious, she doesn't like to have fun, she doesn't like to do this, do that. But like we talked about before, you could prove that to them and be like, I like to have fun, as long as halal fun.
Yeah, exactly.
I like to have fun too, but like, we were super uncomfortable with it. We didn't even know what the limits were. We were just kind of like, you know what, I'll just opt out of everything because I don't think it's meant for me. But obviously, like, that's not how hijab works. That's not how it works in general. And also, you brought up, like, being taller.
Oh my goodness, the amount of finding an abaya that's long enough for you, finding a dress that's long enough for you, finding something that doesn't necessarily, like, hug you in ways like that, right? And it's just like being comfortable in your body, right? Especially as a hijabi, it's like, yeah, I can't show my body off, right? But then at the same time, especially, like, I feel like, especially when we got social media, right? You're exposed to so much all at once, right? You're like, oh, you have to have an hourglass, but you can't be too skinny, but you can't be too fat,
you
right?
have to be, like,
you have to be, like,
and whatever.
Yeah,
like,
you have to be, like, slim thick, you know, but not too much, right?
Yeah.
You can't be, like, too slim thick, like, you know.
You just have
but
to
it's just
be
like
perfect.
It's things like that where it's like, oh my god, like, I don't fit that, right? But it's like, just get comfortable being uncomfortable, because what are you gonna do? I'm not gonna spend my whole life worrying about that and being uncomfortable.
And also, I feel like even with, like, people that are older than us, you know, just perceiving somebody as taller, it automatically meant you were skinnier just because your body's more stretched out and whatever. So, like, all these random older aunties would be like, you're so skinny, you're just like a twig, blah, blah, blah. But I know my body. I know that I'm not skinny. It's just the way that it looks because I am taller. So it's stretched out, you know? But if I was, like, a regular height, then I would just be normal.
And with the height thing, the amount of times aunties would be like, how are we going to find a man for you? You're so tall.
They're never going to be taller than you. Like,
you're gonna have to carry him on your hip. Are you telling me there's no man
on your wedding day?
Are you telling me there's no man out there taller than 5'9"?
Yeah.
Are you telling me there's not a single one?
They all know that their sons are short. That's why. Yeah, being tall. That should be a whole other episode. That should be a whole other episode. But yeah, like, even wearing the hijab as a taller girl, it's harder because things look more tight and, like, immodest on.
And I feel like you already
girls.
Stick out because you're tall.
Stick out,
and then on top of that, you're hijabi.
Outfit, the whole outfit just. That's why I feel like models obviously model when they're taller, because the outfits look better on them and they're more prominent. But that doesn't always, like, that's not a good thing for hijabis.
It's a very difficult thing to, like, understand and, like, kind of navigate.
So my next one would be, the best revenge is no revenge. And this is something that I learned.
I love that one.
Yeah, this is something that I learned recently, actually. Like, I would say just a couple months ago, but this could definitely be a lesson for, like, 13-year-old me as well. Sometimes, guys, quiet is good. Silence is good. Because obviously as Muslims we know Allah will compensate us no matter what. If somebody does you wrong, you are going to be compensated for it. You cannot be the one to go out and seek revenge. You know, like, it's gonna make you feel good just in the moment, and then afterwards you're gonna be like, okay, well, it's equal now, because I basically stooped down to their level. Whatever this person did to you, you stooped down to their level, and now you're equally as, you know. And that's what I feel like I kind of took it as. But now looking back, like, there has been so many scandals or dramas or whatever it is where I could have just stayed silent and just taken it and let Allah handle, you know, the other person's consequences of their actions. But instead, I would go out and seek, like, oh, let me have the last word, let me have the upper hand, whatever it is. And now I'm just like, you know what, quiet is good,
and the truth always prevails.
It always comes out,
every
and people
single
who do you
time.
wrong will always come back. They will always come and apologize, because their guilt is only going to be erased when you seek revenge on them. And if you don't, then they're gonna feel guilty in their conscience, and they're already gonna come and apologize for whatever they did.
And Allah knows. Like, Allah knows what I do. Allah knows what you do. Allah knows the truth, right?
And Allah knows more than just the situation that happened. Allah knows the feelings that arose from that, you know? Like, if somebody said something to you, or hurt you, or called you something, or, you know, misused your trust, or whatever it is, Allah knows what feelings you went through in the middle of the night when nobody was watching. Allah watched you cry. Allah watched you deal with that pain. And Allah's going to reward you for letting Him take care of it. Like, having that tawakkul and just being like, you know what? Hasbiyallahu wa ni'mal wakeel. He's going to take care of it. But when Allah sees you hurt, and then you go out and hurt that person even more, then what makes you any better? I remember so many times in high school, like, obviously mean girls, whatever it is, but they'd say something about me, or, you know, do something to me to hurt me, and instead of just being like, you know what, I know this is not true about me, or, you know what, I'm just gonna ignore them, I have my own friends, I would go and hurt them back. I would either yell at them or send them a nasty text like, how dare you, blah blah blah. Now, if somebody disrespects me, I know that person knows it's disrespectful, and I will just be like, you know what, we're not on good terms, but Allah's gonna deal with you. I'm not gonna be the one to be petty and send you a long paragraph talking about how
choosing what to put your energy into, right? Like, putting your energy into these is gonna be so draining, right? Putting your energy into the wrong people, trying to prove the truth or trying to prove your side of the story, it's not worth it, because they're not gonna believe you. It is rare that you're gonna go to someone and be like, hey, this is my side of the story, and they're like, oh yeah, you know what, your side of the story is right.
That makes sense.
Yeah, like who's gonna do that, right? You're gonna sit there and argue with them back and forth, right? You're gonna go over the facts, who said what, right? It doesn't work. It's not worth it.
And also, I feel like you should never explain to someone why their disrespect is disrespectful to you, because they know that it's disrespectful. You don't have to sit there and write essay paragraphs about how it's disrespectful and how it disrespected you, because they know it's disrespectful. You don't need to explain that. So you having the upper hand in the situation, if somebody disrespects you, that's it. You cut ties.
And the thing is, when you don't feed into people like that, they try so much harder to get at you. Yeah. Like, oh, really? You're not going to say anything? That's how you know I'm right. That's how you know I'm right, because you know that you're wrong, so you're not saying anything.
They want to get something
They will
out of you.
dig at you so much, and it's all about keeping your strength and protecting your peace. Literally choose peace.
Yeah, you know you're better without them. You know you're more at peace without them. It's quieter without them. Again, quiet is good. You don't want drama in your life. Like, drama's fun when you're not the one being hurt. But in the long run, drama literally has no benefit to anybody. It's better for you, and it makes you seem more mature. When you step away from a situation, you're like, you know what, I don't even want to deal with this. Like, you can think what you want, you can say what you want. Allah's gonna deal with you. You know, it makes you seem more mature because you're not sitting there tapping your thumbs at a screen or yelling at somebody.
When you go out to get revenge or, you know, even just kind of like eye for an eye, right?
Yeah.
Retribution. You're gonna, like, it's very difficult to stop yourself at one point, and you're gonna cross the line and get sins and even, like, make the situation worse for yourself.
True. Who knows if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was going to, you know, just give you rewards for your silence, but you crossing a line could cause you to get more sins than the person who hurt you in the first place.
It literally reminds me, you know that one story where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would walk to the masjid in the back every day, right? And that one lady would throw garbage on him.
Yeah.
Right? And he would just, like, he wouldn't say anything, right? He would just go. And the one day that she didn't, right? He went up and he, like, checked on her and stuff, right? It was just,
why didn't you throw garbage at me today?
I know, it's just like he didn't say anything, right? No revenge,
and he's
right?
the Prophet of Allah.
Exactly.
Like, he could, you know,
if he can keep his calm and, like, composure,
yeah,
when someone's throwing garbage on him, right, on his path to and from the masjid, right, then who do we think we are, to go out and, like, get our dues paid?
I also think it ties into, you know, our last episode when we talked about sabr, like, just having that patience with people, trusting the process with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, trusting that Allah sees and He knows what you're going through.
100%.
It's gonna give you so much peace of mind. Like, you could walk through, you know, any obstacle in life and you're gonna be totally good.
The next piece of advice that I would give my younger self, or our younger selves, is that Western culture is not our culture.
It's not made for us.
We are not Western, so to inherit and inhabit their culture, it shouldn't necessarily appeal to us, right? Like Halloween, Christmas, Easter, right? Like, you see everyone like, oh, here's my Christmas haul, you know? And I remember, like, I used to watch those repeatedly when I was, like, 10 on YouTube. Yeah. Right? And be like, Mama, why don't you get us Christmas presents? Why don't you get us Christmas presents? Right? And you just feel so left out. And you're like, that's not my culture. Why should I feel like I need to indulge in that to live a fulfilling life? Even
I remember, like, when I was younger, I asked my mom if we could buy a crescent moon for Eid and put presents under it like it was Christmas. I got to that point and my mom was like, we are not, you know, non-Muslim for us to do that. We don't celebrate Christmas. Like, I was like, okay, but it's not Christmas, it's Eid. Like, why can't we just have presents under a crescent moon? You know, or like not going trick-or-treating. Yeah, you know, like, you feel so left out. Everyone, like, is eating their candy the next day and you're like, where's my candy? Where's my share? I remember even, like, with public school, we would write Valentine Day cards. We were, like, grade 4, and we were writing it to whoever, like, anybody in the class. What business did I have at the age of 9 writing a Valentine's Day card? Or, you know, at our public school, you could go and, like, send a lollipop to somebody in another class, and it was, like, a Valentine, and I remember, like, I would never get Valentines. Oh my god, I'd feel so bad every time they'd, like, come to the class and distribute them, and I'd get none, and I'd just kind of sit there. Exactly. And the teacher would have to give me one of hers. That made me like, who's gonna send it to us? That literally made me feel like such a loser. Yeah. And that's another thing that, like, we felt left out in, but it's not our culture, and we need to remember that, number one, we came from a totally different culture, you know? Not even put aside, like, our ethnicity and our backgrounds, just Islamic culture, that's totally different, and we should not assume that everybody in the world has the same culture, even though we grew up and we liked it, you know, like, seeing everybody at school. I remember I wanted to change my name. Like, I wanted to have a white name because that to me just seemed like perfect. I wanted to have a YouTube channel. I wanted to do this, do that, because I thought that culture was cool, but that should not appeal to me. I remember even when we used to, like, play our little games, we'd always change our names. Yeah. Right? Like, I'd be like, Jennifer. I was like, Alyssa and, like, Jennifer. Why? And, like, why did we... That's it. That was another thing. Like, get comfortable, right? Why did I feel so uncomfortable with my name? Yeah. Right? My name is so... It's so sacred. Yeah. Right? And then I'm out here wanting to be Jennifer. Yeah. Like, your name... What? Your name is Khadija. Like, one of the most important women in Islam. Exactly. You know, like, but no, I want to be Jennifer. Yeah, my name is Ayat, like Ayat of the Quran, miracles sent down from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I wanted to be Alyssa. It just like, nothing wrong with being named Alyssa, obviously. Or Jennifer. Or Jennifer. But, like, that's how you know that this, like, this culture just seemed so interesting to us, and we just wanted to indulge in it.
It's all that we consume, right?
Yeah.
Like the TV shows we watch as kids, the YouTube videos we watch, right? The people around us. It's all that you see around you and that you consume. And you're like, I guess like as kids we wondered why we were so different or why we should be different.
Or how to work towards not being different. You know, like, I remember for the longest time I wanted to dye my hair blonde. Why do you think I wanted to dye my hair blonde? Like, do you think that just appealed to me and in the 4th grade? No, because all my friends were blonde. All my friends had blue eyes. I wanted colored eyes so bad. I was like, the minute I get into high school, I'm buying colored contacts and I'm putting
them on. I remember that. I literally used to feel the same way. Even in, like, elementary school, like, when it'd be really hot during the summer, she'd be like, oh, make sure to dress appropriately, right? My mom would put me in, like, a nice floral dress. I'd be like, no, I want to wear a tank top and shorts.
Yeah.
And she'd be like, no, like, we don't wear that. And I'd be like, no, I need to wear a tank top and shorts, right? And it's just, like, to the point where why did I feel like in elementary school, why did I feel like I needed to do that?
Why did you need to sexualize yourself?
Exactly, at such a young age.
Wear less clothes. And that's also something that ties in with, like, discipline. It's wisdom, like protecting ourselves, protecting our bodies at that young age, because you never know who could take advantage of you, who could be, you know, an elder person.
And it may seem like, oh, but you were so young, like who would want to take advantage of you? The people some of the teachers in these schools, they are not professional. They cannot be trusted.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's not even about, like, oh, but there's certifications, but background checks, like police checks.
Human beings.
At the end of the day, like, even if it's not all men, you need to be careful of all men.
Because it's a risk. And this is obviously not to do, like, obviously you're not going to be like, oh, I'm not going to dress my daughter in this because, you know, your clothes will define whether you're sexually assaulted or not. But also going that extra length, like I was talking about this with my friend yesterday, going that extra length just to protect, just in case, like people who post their children on social media wearing certain outfits, like why are you even posting knowing that there are weirdos and creeps on the internet? Why aren't you wanting to protect your child?
Those types of accounts are so unsettling. That's a whole other that's a whole other thing for another day.
My piece of advice would be to work for your future self, because I'm future Ayat right now. Well, I'm present Ayat, but to past Ayat, I'm future Ayat, if that makes sense.
It does, don't worry.
I remember, like, even things with, like, homework, whatever it all is going to get you to where you are now. Every single move and action you did back then got you where you are right now. So I wish that I was more aware of my future self and just not, you know, putting as much burden on her. Even just with my last year of high school, I remember I was just like so tired. My mental health was really bad. So I was like, I'll just let future Ayat deal with all the schoolwork. And I did end up dealing with it. But I just wish that I had that like self-discipline in a way to like look out for my future self. Like, oh no, I don't want to do this later on. I don't have to worry about this later on. And I'm just going to figure it out now. And I feel like one of the steps that I took to ensure that that is a habit that I instill is like, I applied for a credit card. You know, I got a credit card. Start working on my credit now so that my future self doesn't have to worry about it. Or other things like savings. Like, you know, I work 2 jobs now and Khalija's also working. So us just being saving and like whatever it is going to help our future selves. And then also with Islam, like just trying to accumulate as many deeds as you can is going to help your future self when you are being judged on the day of judgment. Like just being aware of your future self, knowing that at some point you're going to have to deal with the actions you are putting her through, if that makes sense. Or him. If you're a guy listening to this, or him.
I think like all of these pieces of advice that we're giving our younger selves, our past selves, they're subjective to an extent. Mm-hmm. Right? And at the end of the day, experience, right? You can tell someone something 1,000,000 times, but they will not listen until they experience it for themselves, right? So this is all very much like, well, if my younger self decided to listen, right? That's true. Then, because there definitely has been someone who's like my parents are definitely like, oh, these rules are meant like for your safety, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, sure.
Like, what type of
Like,
safety? One time me and Khadija begged our parents to walk to school together.
oh, I remember the story.
We almost got hit with a bus.
I remember some bus driver honked at me, and so the next day I told my mom, and Ayat's dad was driving on the road like really slow, right? Like the pace that we were walking, right? Just beside us the entire time. And me and I were like, we're so cool. We're walking to school. Like, it was so funny.
But that's how you know that, like,
they cared for us.
They wanted to protect us, but some things we were like, no, we want to walk to school. Our school was not far at all. It was like a 2-minute drive. We were like, we want to walk to school. And kid you not, we almost got hit by a bus. And yeah, so that was to protect us. But that's what I'm saying is that, like, even if we were to tell our younger selves, like, oh no, hijab is for protection.
I know. I'd be like,
okay,
yo,
girl.
don't tell me this right
girl.
now.
Like,
I'm 12.
Yeah,
What are you telling me about hijab right now? I don't want to be
protected.
Like, again, it's all it's all very subjective.
Yeah.
Right? But if my younger self were to listen and actually take these pieces of advice, I think my life would be a lot easier.
Yeah.
A lot easier.
But alhamdulillah for everything. You know, we have... I'm very happy with where we're at right now, and I'm happy with the awareness that we have of our religion and of ourselves.
I'm glad that we learned it, but we still have a lot more to learn.
I know.
A lot more.
Like, who knows, our future selves are listening to this now and like, they were so naive.
I know, right?
They didn't know anything. Like, I'm saying right now, oh, my future kids, yeah, they're gonna do this and this and that. But who's to know I don't change my mind in the next 5 years, 10 years.
Give them a phone at the age of 6?
Absolutely not. Actually, I'm very against that idea. Yeah, thanks, everybody, for tuning in. This was such a great episode to film. We always have so much fun doing these. And make sure to tune in to our next one.
And follow our Instagram, Shifa'a Podcast, SHIFAA Podcast.
Make sure to like and subscribe, and also just like the podcast on both Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It's in our link tree in our bio on our Instagram. And we'll see you guys next week, inshallah, because we will be posting throughout Ramadan.
Inshallah. Have a good Ramadan, guys.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.